Primal was released for the PlayStation 2 on the 25th of March 2003. Developed by SCE Studio Cambridge, a British video game developer based in, you guessed it, Cambridge, who are best known for their classic PlayStation 1 games such as Medieval and its sequel Medieval 2, released in the years 1998 and 2000 respectively. Primal was met with mixed or average reviews according to the wiki, but looking at Metacritic it scored 73 out of 100 with critics and an 8.5 out of 10 with users. Pretty solid scores in my opinion. Now, I don't want to bore you too long with the lore, so I'll just give you the too long didn't read version. You play as Jen, whose spirit has been dragged out of her body by Scree, a gargoyle who becomes your companion and second playable character throughout the whole game. He brings Jen to the Nexus, where she is tasked with fighting through 4 different elemental realms to help restore the balance between order and chaos. My first experience with Primal must have been around the age of 6. My dad had gotten hold of a copy and I remember being enthralled watching him play it. I was not very good at it myself at the time, but I was more than content at watching him play. I remember he got to the second realm and was hard stuck and never made it any further. But fast forwarding 20 years and I decided to give it another go. This time playing it through emulation on my PC, with one goal in mind: to complete the game in honour of my dad, who sadly passed away 2 years ago to the date of this video being uploaded. And I'm proud to say I achieved this goal, but along the way I had the idea to make this video. So, is Primal Souls-like? Short answer, and the most likely to be given to you by a die-hard Dark Souls fanboy, is no. The long answer, which also happens to be mine, is yes and no, but don't worry, I'll explain myself. Firstly, the story is explained to you in great detail rather than shrouded in mystery and having the player read item descriptions to try and decipher what the fuck is going on. As much love as I have for the Souls games, I still do love a story-driven game, where I'm not having to go out of my way to learn everything about the story, or, heaven forbid, watch 3 hours worth of RT video content just to get an understanding of everything. Death is not part of the core gameplay loop. During my recent completion of Primal, I only died once, and this was at the last boss fight. Instead, the game gives you more than enough resources to keep yourself alive and fighting, but if you are to die, you'll be met with a generic game over screen and you'll see a cutscene of Jen's body in the hospital bed, and you'll be forced to continue from your last save point. There are no skills or upgrading system to your character or their weapons in the traditional Souls-like fashion, but instead you start off with just Jen in her human form and a dagger. You'll quickly learn that she is a half-breed, half human, half demon, and is able to take on the form of each of the 4 realms races once the power of transformation is bestowed upon her. The time it takes to get these abilities varies from realm to realm, but each form comes with its own unique weapons, skills, and moveset, with the devs boasting around 20 different attacks for each of the 4 demon forms. As you get to grips with the combat and learn the combos, you'll really start to see all of these attacks come out to play. Side note, the screen also lights up letting you know when you're hitting these combos, which I found really fucking cool. The combat is not unforgiving like your traditional Souls-like, but it does get harder and harder as you progress forward in story to each realm, so mindless key bashing can and will mess you up. The lack of any sort of stamina management though is a big key element as to why this game shouldn't be considered a Souls-like. There are no bonfires or anything like that, but there is fast travel from various points in the same realm through the use of rift gates, which you unlock access to as you discover each one. Also, the hub area, called the Nexus, has nothing to offer other than being the area where the starting rift gate for each realm is located. So once you've saved one realm, you'll be taken back to the Nexus, you'll be greeted by a cutscene, and then following Scree to the next rift gate to go save the next realm. The only other use for this area is where the final boss battle takes place. Lastly, you are also given a map at all times and are able to talk to your companion Scree for advice on what you should be doing next, so there is a fairly large degree of handholding. Doors. Yes, my first point for this section is doors. The classic cannot be opened from this side and needs a key are abundant in this game, along with the long ass door openings you know from traditional Souls-likes. Next up is barrels. Now there is no shortage of barrels to break in the game, with 90% of them having nothing inside, but you feel compelled anyway to kick every single one of them open in hopes of finding something. The same can be said for chests in this game. No, not that kind of chest. Although, why did the devs feel the need to give her human form jiggle physics? Anyway, where was I? Oh right, yeah, chests. Now at the start of the game there are not many and are hidden away, but each one of them contains a collectible. Near the end of the game the devs decided to place a lot more of them, sometimes many in the same room, with all of them containing nothing at all. Camera controls. Like in Dark Souls and many Souls-like games, the camera is often another enemy. The same can be said for Primal. The default settings are inverted, left looks right, right looks left, and the same goes for up and down. In tight area, the camera can get a bit annoying, but you can click the right stick to reset the camera to the direction your character is facing. While there is a lock-on system, it is not dictated by the player. It will lock onto the closest enemy and you will not be able to change which enemy you're locked onto unless you press a button to disengage from the combat, try to get close up to the enemy you actually want to fight and then re-engage them. The game does also have a block and poorly implemented parry mechanic, but it's an auto parry, so you have to perform a perfect block in order for Jen to do an auto attack. This is quite hard due to a lot of enemies not having telegraphed attacks, and I found that a lot of the time I was parrying down to just pure luck. You don't get a real dodge ability until you get to the third realm. There are also iframes when you're doing certain things like interacting with doors, levers, looking at you Dark Souls 2. Another side note, there is a combat mechanic where any enemy above your average grunt, you will have to lower their health until they're in a weak state and then you'll have to perform a finisher move on them, else they'll regain their health and will join back into the fight. And while we're on the subject, ganks. Towards the end, there are quite a few gank encounters which are made easier by the forgiving combat system where they won't all dogpile you at once, but one or two will occasionally try to sneak up from behind and get a hit in. This can be countered by the devs giving Jen a backward spin attack which helps to knock down enemies behind you, but with all this mixed in with the janky camera controls mentioned before, and you have a combat system reminiscent of a Dark Souls game. Souls. Now, it wouldn't be a Souls-like if it didn't have souls, and Primal certainly does have souls. Scree can suck the souls from fallen foes, which she then acts like your Estus flask, while Jen can then suck the souls from Scree to replenish the health from whichever demon form she is currently in. The game does give you a lot of slack by giving you the ability to find gems that will activate in combat when Jen's health is depleted. When depleted, her health will refill and a gem will be spent. So, is Primal a Souls-like? To me, Primal is a Souls-like before the Dark Souls games, but you may have a different opinion, and if so, I'd love to read about it and discuss it in the comments. Lastly, I would like to say this video would not be possible if it were not for the influence my dad had on me as a child. I'm a gamer at heart and love all things tech related, so if it wasn't for him, I probably would not have the passion for tech and gaming that I do to this day, so this video is dedicated to him. Thank you for watching.